Hey guys, Colton and Thad here again. Last time you saw us, we left you with my 164-inch early season bow kill here in Ohio. And since then, it's been everything just shy of a walk in the park. We've been bouncing back and forth between 2 and sometimes 3 other farms trying to get another buck off our hit list for Thad. And it just seems like everything's working against us and just the still constant battle of cat and mouse.
Yeah, as Colton said, he come down in the beginning of November, and we tried to do our best to lay some boat on the ground, but just didn't happen. I think we just had too many options, and we were trying to bounce around too much, and we were trying to bounce around between here and West Virginia and Ohio, and I have a couple different farms in Ohio, and I really wanted to lay the big buck down here in West Virginia, but we just couldn't make it happen, and we were scrounging around checking cameras in Ohio while trying to hunt here, and we had a couple hit listers show up in Ohio, and we were just bouncing around way too much when we should have just stuck to one deer and went for it, and we just couldn't make it happen, and that's the problem when you have too many farms. Some people have a problem even getting one farm, but we're fortunate enough to actually have a couple options, and it works out great. We get a really good friendship with the farmers, and it seems to really pay off in the end when they we go back every year and ask for permission, and it seems to pay off. And earlier this summer I picked up a 1,000-acre farm in Ohio, and I really worked my butt off all summer thinking it was going to be the farm that I was going to hunt all fall, and I spent like 4 weeks there in the summer videotaping, spot and scope, and I had some really good hit list bucks, but it just didn't pan out for that farm. And believe it or not, the farm that we've actually hunted the last couple of years, my main farm, turned out to be the farm that would produce the giant. My original farm in Ohio, we've been able to shoot some really good bucks off of, and last year I was able to shoot 150-inch, and it's a weird piece of property. Hey, it's divided by a county road, and we have 80 acres on one side and 40 acres on the other side, and I think it's just having the right genetics and the right genes to shoot big giant bucks, and it's not a very big piece of property, and I don't really think you have to have that big of a piece of property to shoot a giant if you work at it. And I try to switch it up. Usually I'm tagged out the beginning of October, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to pattern these bucks, and this year I wanted to change it up a little bit because it seems like I get a lot of the majority of my big bucks later in the year, and it's I never would have dreamed I'd been able to come face to face with one of the number one hit list bucks I've had the last 2 years, and on this 40-acre piece of property I've hunted this buck we nicknamed Dagger for 2 years now, and I've only had probably 15 or 20 trail cam pictures of him total. It's just literally almost hunting a ghost buck, and the very first picture I've ever had in daylight of him was this year, and I'm very fortunate enough to put in the time and work and effort, and I didn't really start hunting until the beginning of November. I kind of try to do a little bit different this year and wait and see if I can get one of these big bucks I get down in late season. I didn't really think it was going to happen until probably mid-December, but you never know what's going to happen in November. So with November, the first couple weeks being slow when Colton was here, and it was very frustrating and hard to put in day after day after day when you weren't seeing that much buck activity. But on November 21st, it was just one of those magical days that it happened.
Yeah, like Thad just said there about coming down the first week in November, I took my vacation, came down for 7 days to film, and it was like just lockdown. There was no bucks moving, and it's kind of funny because the last day that we was here, we went and checked some cameras, and this buck that he's mentioned, Dagger, that's like a ghost, we checked the camera at the stand at his aunt's, and here we'd been hunting the other farm, and we get back to the truck, pop the SD card in the viewer, and Thad just looks up at me with a blank stare on his face, and here Dagger had been there the last 2 days and shooting light. So it was crazy, and I wish we could have got it on film while I was here. But then a couple weeks ago, whenever Thad shot his buck, I was supposed to come down that Saturday and film Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then something came up where Thad had to go out of town Sunday, and he's like, it's probably a waste of time driving all the way down here just to film for one evening. And now looking back, wish I'd have been there.
Yeah, it's one of those things, with dirt bikes being my career, I had to leave town and go do some testing for next year, but, Colton was supposed to come down, and I knew Colton was hunting a pretty good West Virginia deer at his house, and, with West Virginia gun season coming in that Monday, I wanted to give him the opportunity to make it happen, and You know, it's very hard filming by yourself, and you know, I knew it was going to happen. It's just a matter of time being by myself. And you know, November 20th, I was in the stand. 5 o'clock, 5:30 rolled around. You know, I was getting ready to get down. I had a couple does in front of me, and I heard something, and I knew it instantly it was going to be a buck. And I looked back, and here comes a buck we nicknamed Stickers. He's probably 140, 145 inch deer, but you know, I'd say he's probably got 15, 16 scoreable points. He's just got junk everywhere. I mean, he's pretty wild looking, and you know, I hunted this buck the last 2 years also, and actually I let this buck walk last year when I really shouldn't have, and it was tough. But looking at it now, seeing how much he put on this year, and knowing the chances now that he might make it till next year, it is beyond my belief of how big he might be. And you know, we have another buck that I filmed in August that was pushing probably 180 in August, and you know, I came to become pretty good friends with a kid next to that farm, and you know, I found out he was hunting the same deer, and you know, as of November 15th, he had broken off one side, so he went from being 180 inch to maybe 120. So you know, I know that kid ain't going to shoot him, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that buck next year. You know, we've looked at trail cams and stuff, and you know, we have an opportunity to maybe at a 200 inch deer next year. Just got to be there at the right time. But you know, it's the story about Dagger really unfolded on November 21st to just one of those magical days when I woke up that morning, and you know, it was 25 degrees outside, frosty, cold, quiet, and I got in the stand, and you know, I had a lot of buck activity that morning. I think I seen 5 different bucks, and had a really nice buck. I was able to grunt in, and you know, he come up cruising up through there and checking stuff out, and you know, he's a beautiful buck, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him next year too. You know, he's a mainframe mate. Got a little kicker, maybe a 9. Just wanting to give him another year and see what he'll blow up to be, maybe another 2 years. But you know, going in that evening, and you know, it was I didn't really know it was going to happen. You know, it was warm that day. It was like 65 degrees, and I had a pretty iffy wind, and I didn't really have hope that night. But you know, I went in and set, and I got in there and tucked away, and believe it or not, at like 4:30, I had a mature deer come chasing a doe right by me, and you know, I gave him the pass down through there, and you know, it was a pretty crazy evening from there on out.
Yeah, you know, like Thad was just saying about how self-filming, it's really hard, especially trying to keep your composure when you got a 160, 170 inch buck coming in on you. But you know, like Thad said, that Saturday, I was back in West Virginia trying to get a last chance at my shooter before gun season rolled around. And I know it's like, I mean, I still had my bow up in the tree, getting ready to lower my bow, and my phone's vibrating. And I pull my phone out of my pocket, and I see it's him calling, and like instantly I got that feeling in my stomach, like he never calls me before dark. He just smoked one. And he calls me, and he's like, dude, I ain't gonna believe it. I just smoked Dagger, the buck that's a ghost. And he's like, he came in chasing a doe, and he said it was at last minute. And you know, as you'll see here in this next clip of the hunt, it's unfortunately he wasn't able to get the initial shot on film. But you know, that's just the price you pay trying to do it all by yourself, and that's why I'm going back to kicking myself in the butt and stuff for not coming down and just wasting that, or driving all the way down here just for one evening to hunt, because it had definitely been worth it. But check out the 2 days leading up to the killing of Dagger, and I think you'll like it.
Alright, day number 2. Hunted yesterday morning, yesterday evening, this morning, back at it this evening. Pretty slow, it's been a rough year. I know I got 2 big shooters here, one named Stickers and one named Dagger, so just gotta be here at the right time. They've both been here in the daylight when I haven't been here, so I was trying to wait for this spot to be better a little later, but they've been showing up, so we're in here, get tucked away. It's about 3 o'clock. Been settled in the stand for a couple minutes now, just letting things cool down, so get in here and see if we can get an arrow in one of these babies. So Stickers is probably on the top of our list. He's got a bunch of kickers and got junk everywhere, and looks a little malnourished too. He's lost a lot of hair, and so he's definitely on the top of our list, probably 140, 150. So guess down here and see what happens. Morning number 3. Had one of our shooters yesterday at 25 yards, but couldn't get drawn back because of the does. It's almost 7 o'clock in the morning, sun's just coming up. Just had a buck come by us in bed, probably 100 yards from us, right down below us. So, should be good. We got 2 shooters. Had stickers here, like I said yesterday evening. So, I know they're here, just gotta be here. So we're gonna get quiet down and use this buck as a bait, hopefully. So, see how it goes. Cold this morning, like 28 degrees. Beautiful morning, quiet. Not a freaking sound going on. It's beautiful. So, see how we can get it done. I just smoked dagger, baby. Oh my god. I just shot dagger. I just shot dagger. I swear to God, he's piled up 40 yards from me, dude. Oh my God, dude. Alright, 3rd day in the stand tonight. Spent all this money on camera equipment, but just couldn't get the job done by myself tonight. But you know, this big bruiser, we named Dagger, came chasing a doe in 5 yards from my stand. I couldn't get the camera on, but you know, this quality of a buck, there's no way I'm letting them get out of my sight. So I went ahead and took the shot, and as you can tell, an absolute bruiser. I've been hunting this buck for 2 years now. Last year, I don't think he was quite this heavy or big, but he had a pretty long dagger, and that's where we got the name from. But so stoked to finally get it done. Absolute giant. So we'll get him cleaned up here and get some more video of him tomorrow in the daylight and stuff, but absolute giant. Alright, here we are the day after I shot Dagger. You know, we want to get him out and get some photos in the daylight and stuff, but it's been 21 days of long hunting. You know, I've had a really good buck here in West Virginia at my house that I've been hunting pretty hard, but just didn't pan out for me. And you know, I went to Ohio to check cameras last week, and you know, this big booger showed up. You know, it was the first daylight picture I've had of him all year, and you know, I've only probably got 15 or 20 photos of him total in the last 2 years. And you know, we nicknamed this deer Dagger because
last year he had a pretty long dagger right here, but you know, he lost it. But I think he put on some serious mass this year, and you know, hopefully he's in the 160s, and I think, and you know, it turns out that this buck actually came in chasing a doe. You know, I haven't even seen this buck in person till yesterday evening, and you know, about 5 o'clock he came running in chasing a doe. And you know, it sucks for me, I didn't have a cameraman. I was trying to do it myself, but you know, I didn't get the camera on and get it on him fast enough. But you know, deer this caliber, I was not letting him get out of my sight, and you know, he ran 5 yards underneath me, and by the time I got him to stop, he was 30 yards out, and put a good shot on him. And you know, he went 30 yards and piled up. And you know, it's a dream come true to shoot a buck like this, an absolute giant. He has 12 scoreable points, so getting cleaned up here, and he'll look good on my wall. Like I said, it sucks I didn't get him on film, but you know, I've had a really good last couple of days hunt in that spot, and we'll put together an edit and show you guys my hunt for a deer of a lifetime. Alright, yeah, you know, as you can see in the film, unfortunate for me I didn't get the shot, but you know, looking back on it, it was just a dream hunt for me. I never would have dreamed I'd be able to kill a dagger. You know, I was really in there after Stickers, a smaller buck, just because you know, I didn't really think dagger would give me the opportunity. You know, he hasn't in the last 2 years, and I've really hunted him hard, and you know, the end result is 168-inch Ohio Giant. You know, I'm gonna get him mounted up and everything, but you know, looking at his deer and my deer, I mean, they're identical, and you know, mine's just a little bit heavier, but you know, it's been a dream season for us to shoot 260-inch Ohio Giants, and you know, we still got all December to make it happen in West Virginia, and you know, we even picked up a couple farms in PA this fall. So you know, hopefully we'll be able to put a couple more Giants on the ground. So stick in and have fun, and hope you enjoy Chaos of Interest.